I'd love to know from you all, any of you, how many drug cartels, gang members, the number, so to speak, do you feel like, and those agents kind of sort of working with them, do we have in the interior of the United States by your estimate? Anybody?
Do you mean individual groups, ma'am, or?
Yeah, like number of people that are associated with those groups, either drug cartels, gang members, et cetera.
Well into the thousands, ma'am.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Welcome back, Patriots, to Founding Voice America, where we don't sugarcoat the truth, we serve it red, white, and bold. If you care about your country, your family, and your freedom, then buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the ugly, unfiltered truth the mainstream media won't dare touch. Let's talk about a war being waged on American soil. A war not with tanks or troops, but with poison. I'm talking about the fentanyl crisis, the collapse of our southern border, and the infiltration of our nation by cartels, gangs, and even China itself. And no, this isn't some conspiracy theory. This is organized, strategic destruction, and it's happening on Joe Biden's watch. The border is not secure. It's a freeway for poison. We just heard federal agents admit what we already knew. Drug seizures have skyrocketed at our ports of entry. Now, the left wants you to think that's a good thing. Look, we're catching more drugs. But let's be honest, folks. We're only catching what we can see. For every pound of fentanyl seized, how many are slipping through the cracks? The border is swamped, our agents are overworked, and cartels are exploiting the chaos to flood our communities with deadly substances. This isn't negligence, it's sabotage. Fentanyl, the leading cause of death for young Americans. Let that sink in. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer of Americans aged 18 to 45. Not car crashes. Not cancer. Not heart disease. Fentanyl. How did we get here? Well, under President Trump, the border was finally being treated like a line of defense, not a welcome mat. But under Biden, we've seen nothing but open arms for illegal aliens and open highways for narcotics. And here's the kicker. This administration has the nerve to claim they're taking it seriously. Seriously. Patriots, if this is what serious looks like, God help us all. Cartels are running America's streets. According to agents, thousands of gang members and cartel affiliates are already operating inside the United States. Thousands. They're not just standing around. They're deeply embedded, coordinating with Mexican cartels to distribute drugs in every American city, from El Paso to New York, from Miami to Seattle. And they're using our very own street gangs as foot soldiers. Let me ask you, folks, where is the outrage? Where's the National Emergency Declaration? Where's the border wall we paid for? This isn't just a law enforcement issue. This is an invasion, and Washington, D.C. is too cowardly, or too compromised, to stop it. Why China loves Biden's America? Let's not forget who's behind the curtain here. China is the #1 source of fentanyl precursors, the chemicals needed to cook this poison. And guess what? Thanks to a little thing called the de minimis rule, Chinese exporters can ship anything under $800 into the U.S. without facing any inspection. That's right. No customs checks. No enforcement. Just a fast lane to death. Now tell me, how is this not a national betrayal? We're talking about foreign adversaries pumping poison into our country, and we're giving them legal protection to do it. Operation Chainbreaker, fighting a war with one hand tied.
Have read is that actually the seizures of drugs have gone up, particularly at ports of entry, since we've seen a more secure border. Is that correct in what you've seen, that we've had an opportunity to seize more drugs at those ports of entry?
Speaking on behalf of HSI El Paso and our response to Customs and Border Protection, we're seeing increased cases as it relates to cocaine, and we're seeing increased seizures in cocaine.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, I had an opportunity to interact with some HSI agents over the weekend, just top shelf, first class. And to all of you and the men and women who work with you, thank you so much for what you do. And I think it's critically important right now that we continue to focus on this. We know that fentanyl death fentanyl overdoses. Fentanyl poisoning is the leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 45 in our country. We have seen, obviously, the previous administration continue to kick the can down the road, and this administration is taking it serious, making sure that we are using every tool in our toolbox to keep Americans safe. When we look at the nexus between moving that fentanyl and drug cartels and gang members, I'd love to know from you all, any of you, how many drug cartels, gang members, the number, so to speak, do you feel like, and those agents kind of sort of working with them, do we have in the interior of the United States by your estimate? Anybody?
Do you mean individual groups, ma'am, or?
Yeah, like number of people that are associated with those groups, either
In
drug cartels, gang members, et cetera.
Well into the thousands, ma'am.
Wow. 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 When you are looking at the nexus and how this works, how the cartels utilize these gangs to move this product around the country, can one of you tell me a little bit about process-wise, kind of how they do that?
Ma'am, in my experience, the cartels, specifically the Mexican drug cartels, often use the street gangs in the United States as kind of their foot soldiers to carry out some of their dirty work, to carry out, retail distribution, things of that nature. I think, and I know I don't mean to sound like a broken record to keep going back to the Homeland Security task forces, but one of the things I think that's great about that and helps us address this problem is it allows every agency to bring their expertise to the table. I would reference, FBI's expertise in dealing with violent street gangs and that nature, HSI with the ports and with the chemicals, DEA with our expertise in cartels. I mean, I think we bring it all together to fight this fight. And
we really appreciate you all working together, utilizing your strengths to make sure that we're putting the American people in a safer and stronger position. And I commend President Trump and his administration for making this a priority. When you're looking at the supply chain of how this works, obviously we've talked a lot about China and China's role in these fentanyl precursors and coming here. Is there anything that we need to be doing to be more disruptive to that supply chain from your perspective?
Thank you for your question, ma'am. In HSI El Paso, we have one of our agency's national initiatives, Operation Chainbreaker. And we are looking at pill presses, pill dyes, molds that are being imported in. Obviously, you mentioned the precursor chemicals. The De Minimis Act is really hurting and harming us right now because anything under that $800 threshold is not being subject to search or customs inspection. So that allows these parts and pieces to come in. We're seeing significant numbers of pill presses, dyes that are being brought here. We've, as part of Operation Chainbreaker, we've found over 50 labs set up here in the United States that are now producing fentanyl.
Wow. Okay, when we're talking about China, obviously everyone, that's been well documented. DEA more recently mentioned India. Are there other countries or bad actors that we need to be kind of putting into focus here?
India is really the only player I think that comes up on the radar besides China. But let me be clear, like at a much smaller scale.
Okay.
I mean, our focus is definitely needs to be on China.
And as we look at what's happening across the country right now, what do you think the next fentanyl may be? Are you seeing something that is bubbling up and you feel like has the unfortunate opportunity to kind of catch hold here in the United States? And then if so, what can we be doing to be vigilant to warn that off?
I think, ma'am, one of the more emerging threats is not necessarily a new drug itself, but the combination of drugs. For instance, people have been taking xylazine, which is like a veterinary drug, and mixing that with fentanyl. Why that's so dangerous is it basically cancels out the effects of Narcan. So it's because it's not a synthetic opioid. We've had some pretty good, the public has had pretty good success with Narcan in reviving people and bringing them back from the brink of overdose. But when you put outside things into it as an adulterant to cut it, all in the name of profit, it cancels that out. So it's very dangerous.
Absolutely. And last thing, what should we be doing to better target the financial networks that aid and abet the cartels, including their operation and presence here in the United States?
I would just ask for continued accountability from any type of financial institutions, right, that provide resources that can be exploited or when folks are complicit, but just additional support to law enforcement to abide by lawful process and things that we need for some clarity.
Well, thank you, and thank you again for what you do.
I salute the agents out there fighting back. Through Operation Chainbreaker, they found over 50 fentanyl labs operating inside the United States. That's 50 domestic terror factories in our own neighborhoods. But how many labs haven't been found? How many more are hidden in plain sight? These patriots are doing the best they can, but they're being outgunned and outmaneuvered because our leaders have abandoned them. You can't win a war if your own government is working against you. A new monster, xylazine plus fentanyl equals Narcan, can't save you. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, let's talk about a deadly new trend: cutting fentanyl with xylazine, a veterinary sedative. This toxic cocktail is so potent, it renders Narcan useless. You heard that right. Narcan, the one lifeline we've had, doesn't work. People are dropping dead in the streets, and there's no way to bring them back. This isn't just a drug epidemic anymore. This is chemical warfare, and our politicians are standing on the sidelines, too busy playing identity politics to save American lives. India joins the party, but China leads the parade. Yes, India is starting to creep into the game, but make no mistake, China is still the kingpin. Every time you hear the left say global cooperation, just remember, they're cooperating with the very nations that are destroying us from within. Our enemies know our system. They know our laws, and they are using them to infiltrate and infect every inch of this country. The financial pipeline. Follow the money. You want to take down a cartel? Follow the money. But here's the problem. Banks and financial institutions are turning a blind eye, either because they're being exploited or because they're complicit. We need tough, unrelenting oversight. We need a DOJ and Treasury that are not afraid to call out these banks and freeze cartel funds today. Instead, we get task forces, memos, and virtue signaling press conferences. Enough. This is a national security threat. Period. This isn't about drugs anymore. It's about control, chaos, and the systematic dismantling of our republic. Cartels are in control of our border. China is in control of our supply chains. And corrupt politicians are in control of our government. Meanwhile, the American people are left to deal with dead children, broken communities, and open graves. This should be on every screen in every living room in America. But instead, the media is too busy defending Biden's incompetence and labeling patriots like you and me as extremists for daring to speak the truth. It's time to rise. Not politely, not quietly, but unapologetically. We don't need more blue ribbon panels or photo ops. We need action. We need to finish the wall. We need to shut down the chemical shipments. And we need to take the gloves off when dealing with cartels, gangs, and any foreign nation enabling this death trade. America's founders didn't create this republic so our children could OD in gas station parking lots. They built it so we could live free, safe, and sovereign. We owe it to their memory, and to every future generation, to take this country back. This is Founding Voice America, where the fight for truth, liberty, and the soul of this great nation never stops. Subscribe, share this message, and join the movement. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.